Hey, welcome back to your favorite Fundamentals of College Math class. We're going to talk about simple interest in this section. Here's our objectives. Let's start out with discussing what interest is. So it's the dollar amount that we get paid for lending. If we lend our money to others, we can get paid interest. Or like if you're taking out a car loan or whatever, it's the interest is how much you're paying just to borrow the money, right? Free money to the bank that you're giving them for borrowing that much money. So the amount of money that we deposit or borrow is called principal. The amount of interest depends on the principal. The interest rate, which is given as a percent, and simple interest finally involves interest calculated only on the principal. So we're only doing simple interest today. So it's only calculated on the principal. We'll get into different scenarios that are not simple interest scenarios in other sections as we continue in this unit. So simple interest is the principal, so how much you borrow if you're borrowing, times the rate, and that percentage, you have to put that in as a decimal, okay, times your time, and this is in years. Your time is in years here, okay? So interest is principal, capital P, times rate as a decimal, times time in years. So let's do an example here to find the simple interest here is your principal times rate times time. Okay. So you deposit $2,000. So you're putting $2,000 in. That's your principal amount. Has a rate of 6%. So 6% goes in, but we got to convert that as a decimal. Remember, 6%, got to move that over twice. So you got 0.06. You got to, when you're working with this mathematically, you got to be as a decimal. So 6% goes in times our time in years. So at the end of 1 year, so first year, 1 year. So we go ahead and multiply that. We got 2,000 times 0.06 times 1, punch that in, you got $120 at the end of the first year, right, that you made in interest. All right, how second scenario, a student takes out a simple interest loan this time for $1,800 for 2 years at a rate of 8%. What's the interest on the loan? So simple interest is the principal times the rate times the time. It's $1,800, the loan amount. That's our principal amount. The rate is 8%. Convert that to a decimal. 8% is 0.08. 0.08 times the time. How many years are we doing this for? This is for 2 years. So put in 2 years here. So times 2. So we got 1,800 times 0.08 times 2. Looks like you're going to be paying an extra $288 just to take out a loan for 2 years at 8%. That's your simple interest calculation there, 288. All right, the future value at a simple interest rate. So your future value, so the amount at the end is, now your textbook and your authors put it like this, but if you multiply that, that's P times 1 is P times R times T is PRT, and we know that as the principal plus the interest. So the future amount is, like if you were to lend your money or invest your money, is how much do you have at the end? Sometimes this is also referred to as future. The future value, how much you have, the amount you have at the end is the principal, whatever money you put in, plus the interest you made on it. So principal plus interest, simple interest, PRT, right? So this is how I like to think about it. Your authors like to use it that way. And P is also the principal amount is also referred to as the present value, by the way. That's your present value, P. Present value, principal amount. Okay, let's do some examples here. A loan of $1,060 is made at 6.5% for 3 months. What's the loan's future value? And first of all, this is not in years, this is in months. So let's discuss the time first. This is 3 months. Well, we know if we were to convert that to years, for every year there's 12 months. In other words, 3 months over 12 months gives us the years, right? So months cancel here and we're left with years. So we got a fourth of a year, or 0.25 of a year. Okay, so we got to use the time being 0.25. So what's the loan's future value? So number 2, now we're going to say, well, how much I owe, the future amount that I owe, future value, is the principal. I'm going to owe them 1,060 because I'm borrowing the 1,060, plus any interest that I've contracted to pay, that I've promised to pay them. So principal plus the interest, simple interest, principal times rate times time. Okay, that's how much the future value is worth, how much I owe, right? So we're promising to pay 1,060 plus, now let's do the interest, 1,060 at 6.5%, 0.065, right? Make sure you convert that 6.5% to a decimal. 3 months is 0.25 of a year, right? This is a fourth a year. That's the 6.5% that goes in right there. So we got 1,060 plus the interest. This ends up being 17.225. So 1,060 plus, or, sorry, let me just add those. That's 1,070. 1,077. Whoops, good grief. 0.225. So 1,077.23. We got to go to the nearest hundredth because we're working in dollars and cents. So that's the amount that we owe. We owe the 1,060 plus the 17.23 in interest. All right, so 1,077.23. Okay. All right, how about this one here? We've got a little different scenario. You're borrowing 2,500 from a friend. So there's your principal amount. All right, there's your principal amount. You promised to pay back 26.55. So that's the principal plus the interest. That's the amount that you're promising to pay back. In how long? In 6 months. So you got a half a year. What simple interest rate will you pay? Number 1, make sure your time is correct. 6 months out of 12 months is a half a year, or 0.5 years. Right? 0.5, half a year. Okay. So what's the simple interest rate you're going to pay? Well, the amount you're promising to pay is the principal plus the interest. Principal plus the interest. You promised to pay $26.55 in total, borrowing $2,500 initially. So your P is $2,500. We don't know the R yet, the rate, the simple interest rate. We're trying to figure that out, but we do know we promised to pay this back a half a year later. So we have 0.5 years for the T time. Okay. So we got 26.55 is 2,500 plus, go ahead and multiply 2,500 times a half, and you get 1250 R. Subtract 2,500 from both sides. Subtract 2,500, and we've got, let me bring this up here, 2655 minus 2,500, and you got 155 equals, over here I got 1250 R. Solve for R, so divide by 1250. And our R ends up being, let's see, 0.124, which is, as a percent, 12.4%. So you've promised to pay this friend 12.4% interest in those 6 months, right? So, which works out to be 155 extra dollars for borrowing that money. Here's the work through as well. Well, thanks so much for watching. That is simple interest, section 8.3. We'll see you guys next time.